the line is sketched. When it comes to Fatimiyya, Fatimiyya is the decisive barrier between haqq and batil. When Fatimiyya comes, then everyone gets into two camps, the haqq and the batil, the truth and falsehood. One camp where we have divine authority, we have divine wilayah, divine imamah, prescribed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another camp which is from the other side, let's just say. So it will not be an exaggeration if we say that in the same way as Ashura and Ghadir have preserved the Shia identity from 1400 for 14 centuries. If it was not for Ghadir, if it was not for Ashura, the Shia identity itself would have been lost. In the same way, if it was not for Fatimiyya, if it was not for these mourning majalis, then the Shia identity would have been hunted by the genocides that have been commemorated, that have been committed towards the Shia people. So this is the importance of Fatimiyya. That when Fatimiyya comes, the line is drawn, the barrier is sketched. There is haqq, there is batil. There is imamah, there is khilafah. There is truth, there is falsehood. So this is the importance of Fatimiyya. So now a question arises that where did this confrontation begin? What was the pivotal point where these two camps separated? The answer is in the matter of fadak. These two camps were there, but the ideologies were formed and they developed and they grew because of the issue of fadak. Fadak is not just a garden, it's not just an estate. Fadak is what creates us as Shia. Fadak is what makes us Shia. Fadak is what gives us our identity. If he studies what happened to the land of Fadak, if a person goes into the history of Fadak, undoubtedly they will turn to the Ahlul Bayt. Undoubtedly they will turn to Sayyidah Fatima Zahra because it is her right. So this is the importance of Fadak. So inshallah in this lecture, in this talk, we will unravel the mysteries surrounding this land of Fadak. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When we look at Fadak, first of all, what is Fadak? There is a scholar, his name is Yaqut al-Hamawi. About 700 years ago, he lived. He wrote a book called Mu'jamul Buldan, the encyclopedia of geographical locations. In this book, he writes about Fadak, and he says that Fadak, it is a piece of land, it is an estate outside of Medina, about 2 to 3 days journey to get to Fadak from Medina, of course 700 years ago. And in Fadak, it is not a barren land, it is not just a desert. Fadak has many gardens. Fadak is not only one garden. Fadak has many gardens, 2, 3, 4 gardens in this land of Fadak. Fadak, he writes, has lush palm trees, has streams flowing. It is a very fertile land, an extremely agricultural land. So this is Fadak. It is close to where Khaybar is. So this is Fadak. Now how did Fadak come into the hands of Rasulullah? Well, the answer is very clear. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When he went to wage war with the Jews, when he went to fight the Jews at Khaybar, he fought the Jews at Khaybar. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib with his Zulfiqar, he cut Marhab into 2 pieces, and Khaybar was for the Muslims. Khaybar, this mighty fortress, 40 people alone could not lift that gate of Khaybar, and Ali ibn Abi Talib with 2 fingers. Now this news, this Ali ibn Abi Talib, he killed Marhab, he killed Antar, he lifted the fortress of Khaybar with his 2 fingers. This reached the people of Fadak. The people who were living around Fadak, they heard about the bravery of Ali ibn Abi Talib, these Jews, and they became scared. They became scared, they came to the Prophet afterwards, and they said to him that, look, Ya Rasulullah, we don't want to fight you. We know that you're more powerful than us. So here, we'll give you Fadak. You can have this portion of Fadak. This is for you. Now, this is a legal matter that the land which comes into Islamic dominion, the land which belongs to the Muslims, is of 2 types. One type is the land where the Muslims themselves, they ride their horses, they go into battle, they fight, they shoot arrows, they hit with swords, and then because of that, they conquer that land. That land, when it's conquered, it is distributed equally amongst the Muslimin. It is Muslim property for all of the ummah. We have a second type of land, which is called fay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا أَفَاءَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ رَسُولِهِ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْقُرَىٰ فَلِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ. Fay is what? Fay is the land which the Muslims had nothing to do with. Fay is the land which came under Muslim control without the Muslims having to go to war, without the Muslims having to shoot arrows, without them having to ride their horses. When this land comes under Muslim control, this land is فَلِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ. This land is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like every land, and this land is private property of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, وَلِلْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, he can distribute it for the welfare of Muslim nations. It is for him to decide. So Fadak, it was a private property of Rasulullah, we can say. Ibn Hisham, he is a very famous historian. One of the oldest books of seerah that we have is by Ibn Hisham. He writes in this, وَكَانَتْ فَدَكْ خَالِصَةً لِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ, that the land of Fadak was only and only exclusively for the Prophet, because the Muslims, they had not done anything to gain it. So this is how Fadak came into the hands of the Muslims. The Jews of Khaybar, the Jews of Fadak, they came and then they had a peace treaty with the Prophet. So Fadak becomes the Prophet's property. Now what does the Prophet do with this property? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals a verse in the Quran, the verse that I recited in the beginning from Surah to Bani Israel. The verse says, وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ. O Rasulullah, O Prophet, give the family member their right. Give your family member, your closest family member, their right. So Jibreel, he came with the verse. Rasulullah heard the verse. He said, "Oh Jibreel, who is this family member? I am from Banu Hashim, I am from Quraysh. There are so many family members. What family member are we talking about? What right does that family member has?" Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, upon the command of Allah, he said, "Give Fatima Fadak." This was a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ, that your closest of your kins, your closest family member, give them their right. Fadak is Fatima's. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed that Fadak is Fatima's. Now whoever disagrees with this should disagree with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not only in our books. This is reported by the other sect as well. Musnad Abi Ya'la al-Musili. Abu Ya'la, he is a very famous scholar. Al-Hakim al-Naysaburi, they have all written that in their books that when this verse of Surah Banu Israel, وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ, was revealed, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi gave Fadak to Lady Fatima salamullahi alayha. So Fadak became the property of Lady Fatima through the gift of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And from that time till the demise of Rasulullah, Lady Fatima's wukala, her representatives, her workers, were in those gardens of Fadak, and they were working and they were generating the revenue of Fadak. After Rasulullah, what happened? After Rasulullah passed away, there was an upheaval, there was a revolution, a dirty revolution, and the people who came into power, one of the biggest things that they did, one of the very first things that they did, they usurped Fadak from Fatima. They took away Fadak, all of her workers who were in that land, they kicked them out, and they said that Fadak is government property, Fadak is for the Muslims. Why did they do this? Well, Fadak is not like a public garden. Fadak is not a public park. Fadak, it is many gardens come together in one state to form Fadak. The revenue generated, the money generated from those gardens of Fadak was 24,000 golden coins per year. 24,000 golden coins. It was enough for the whole of Banu Hashim. So those people, those usurpers, they come, they take Fadak away. Because why? Because they want to wage wars. They are not divinely appointed. They are kings, they are emperors. They think themselves as conquerors. They want to fight. They want to expand their kingdom. They need money for that. Where is that money going to come from? Here we have 24,000 golden coins. Let's take that land. Fadak is taken away. And also, Fadak, it can be said, was the backbone of the economy of Banu Hashim. So when Fadak is taken away, Banu Hashim automatically become economically weak. So this is the game that was played, the scheme that was hatched by those conspirators against Lady Fatima, against the family of Rasulullah. So Fadak is now taken away. So what does Lady Zahra salamullahi alayha do? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. She goes into court and she says, Fadak is my property. Fadak is mine. You all saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he had given me Fadak. Fadak until yesterday was under my command. I had my workers in Fadak. Give me Fadak back. She went, she said this, and from the other side she was told, bring witnesses. Bring witnesses that Fadak is yours. So, first of all, just imagine you have a phone with you. I come to you. I take your phone and I say this phone is mine. If you want it, you will go bring witnesses that this phone is yours. It doesn't make sense. In Islam we have a principle called qa'idatul yad. Qa'idatul yad is what? If there is a property dispute, two people are fighting over a property. The person who has control of the property, he doesn't need to do anything. The person who is fighting over the property and saying that the property is not yours, it is mine, they should be the one who bring the witnesses. Lady Fatima, Fadak was in her hands. She had her workers there. Everyone knew. The other side who was claiming Fadak, they should be the ones who bring the witnesses. But still this little fiqhi hukm, this little jurisprudential issue, they didn't know. And how would they know? They are not Babu Madinatil Ilm. They are not the door to the city of knowledge. They are not A'lamus Sahaba. They are not Nafsun Nabi. So these people, they ask for witnesses. So first of all, asking for witnesses itself is wrong completely. She brings witnesses. She brings who? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Nafsun Nabi. What can be said about Ali ibn Abi Talib? Amirul Mu'mineen, Mawla al-Muwahhideen, Imamul Muttaqeen, Nafsun Nabi, Asubuddin. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he comes, he says Fadak is Fatima's, rejected. Testimony rejected. Why? Because he is her husband. She brings Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussain, Sayyida Shababi Ahli al-Jannah, the flowers of Rasulullah. Testimony rejected. Why? They're kids. She brings Ayman, one of the most closest people to the family of Rasulullah, who was in the house, who knew everything, who saw everything with her own eyes. Her testimony is also rejected. Why? Because she's not of that status, she's not free. So this is what happened here. So first of all, it is illogical to ask Fatima of witnesses. You are the one who are claiming that the land is yours. You should be the one who brings the witnesses. And secondly, who are you? Who are you? You are challenging Fatima to Zahra, Sayyidatu Nisa al-Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ayatul Tathir, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires to cleanse the Ahlul Bayt from all filth, from every sins. The Ahlul Bayt are infallible. Fatima Zahra, the ayah was revealed in her house. Fatima Zahra, the ayah was revealed under her cloak. Fatima Zahra, she was the core person through whom the people of the Ahlul Bayt were recognized. Fatimatu wa abuha wa ba'luha wa banuha. This is Fatima. First is Fatima. Then that is Fatima's father Rasulullah. That is Fatima's husband Amirul Mu'mineen. These are Fatima's children. Fatima is the center of the Ahlul Bayt, and you ask her for witnesses. Ayatul Tathir is for Fatima, and you ask her for witnesses. So what can be more than this? And coincidentally, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, one day he came to number one, we'll call him. He came to number one and he said, you rejected Fatima's claim for Fadak. Tell me, if a person accuses Fatima of the most heinous crime, which I cannot say upon this minbar, if a person accuses Fatima of that crime, what will you do? He says that I will punish her with the capital punishment. I will punish Fatima using the capital punishment. Amirul Mu'mineen, he looked at him in the eyes and he says, لَقَدْ كَفَرْتَ that you have become a disbeliever. If you do this, you are a kafir. Why? Have you not read the Quran? The Quran says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهَ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guaranteed for Fatima infallibility. Fatima cannot make a mistake, and you come here and say that that Fatima, she is wrong in fadak, she cannot be accepted, her witnesses are not accepted. If she commits a crime, then she deserves punishment. So this is what happened at first. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now the question is, why did more people not come? Well, fadak, it was in the hands of Lady Fatima for all those years. Everyone knew it was in her hands. Why only these 4 people? Well, when it comes to witnessing, we want eyewitnesses. They demanded eyewitnesses. Who was there in the room at the time when Fatima was given fadak? So she brought these 4 people, and their testimonies were rejected. Then she comes and then she says, okay. Lady Fatima, she comes, she says, okay, I'll accept fadak. Let's just say it's not my property. Fadak is the property of my father at least. Rasulullah is my father. Fadak was in his hands. He has passed away. Fadak is an inheritance for me. Give me my inheritance at least. She comes, she asks for fadak as her inheritance. And then these people, this number 1 person, he comes and he makes the hadith out of the thin air. He comes and he says, I heard Rasulullah saying, Inna ma'ashir al-anbiya la nuwarrith ma taraknahu sadaqa. That I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi say that we, the prophets, we do not leave inheritance. Whatever we leave, it is sadaqah for the Muslim ummah. And this narration, it is in the most authentic books of the Muslims, Sahih al-Bukhari, 3 places. He said this hadith, he attributed this hadith to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. First of all, this hadith is about inheritance. Who are you to inherit anything from Rasulullah? Rasulullah's son-in-law is present. Rasulullah's daughter is present. Rasulullah's grandchildren are present. Who are you to inherit from Rasulullah? Why would Rasulullah tell you this hadith and not tell Fatima? So this is a logical question. If this was really a hadith from Rasulullah, the first person who should have heard this from Rasulullah is Lady Fatima. And now if you come and you say that no, Fatima, she forgot, it was not in her knowledge at the time. Well, who are you to question the knowledge of Fatima? Alusi, one of the greatest mufassirin of Ahlul Sunnah, one of the greatest mufassirin of that sect, he writes about a hadith. There's a hadith amongst them that which they have attributed to Rasulullah, in which he says that take 2/3 of your religion from that woman. Now you all understand who that woman is. I'm not going to take her name, but this is a hadith they have attributed to Rasulullah where he said, take 2/3 of your religion from that woman. Alusi himself, he writes that Fatima to Zahra, her knowledge was at that point, her knowledge was at that peak, that if Rasulullah hadn't known that she would pass away shortly after him, he would have said, خُذُوا كُلَّ دِينِكُمْ عَنِ الزَّهْرَةِ. Take all of your religion from Fatima to Zahra. This is the knowledge of Fatima to Zahra. And then so it cannot be possible. You cannot say that Fatima Zahra did not know this hadith. Secondly, it is an established principle that whatever hadith comes and contradicts the Quran, it is rejected. The Quran is the constitution. Whatever law comes and it is in clash with the Quran, we reject that. The hadith which clashes with the Quran, we reject that. Lady Fatima Zahra, after this second claim was dismissed, she came out with a group of women from Banu Hashim. She came into the masjid, she put a curtain up, and then she said her khutbat fadakiyah, the famous sermon of Lady Fatima, the only sermon, the public sermon that Lady Fatima gave, khutbatul fadakiyah. In this sermon she says, and what a great sermon this is. One sermon, one public sermon, you read it, you're flabbergasted at what is found in it. Beginning to end, from usuluddin to furu'uddin, the philosophies, everything is in there. And this is one khutbah of Fatima. In this khutbah, She turns to that person, number one. She says, يَا ابْنَ أَبِي قُحَافَةَ أَفِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ تَرِثُ أَبَاكَ وَلَا أَرِثُ أَبِي. According to the book of Allah, you will inherit from your father. You are deserving of inheritance from your father. And me, Fatima Zahra, I'm not inheriting my father. I'm not inheriting anything from my father. You've concocted this hadith from thin air that we prophets do not leave inheritance. Read the Quran. The Quran which is in your homes, which you have never read. You were in the markets playing when the Quran was revealed. Read that Quran. The Quran says, وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانُ دَاوُودَ. That Sulaiman became the inheritor of Dawood. Sulaiman got the wiratha. Sulaiman got the inheritance from Dawood. Clear clash with the Quran. The Quran says, from the lines of Zakaria, he prayed, وَهَبْ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. I want a child of Allah. I want Yahya. So what? So Yahya can inherit from me, and Yahya can inherit from the family of Yaqub. So here you come and you say that Fadak is not inheritance for Fatima. That the Anbiya, that the prophets of Allah, they do not leave inheritance. And the Quran itself says that Dawood, his inheritance went to Sulaiman. Zakaria, his inheritance went to Yahya. So these are the ways through which Lady Fatima totally crushed this ideology which was sprouting up at that time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when Fadak was denied, as property denied, as inheritance denied, now what? فَهَجَرَتْهُ. It is not only in our books, in their books as well. Fatima, she abandoned that person. She cut off all communication with that person. She became angry at that person. فَغَضِبَتْ فَاطِمَةَ عَلَيْهِ. That Fatima became angry at this person. Fatima became displeased with that person. Do you know what the significance of the anger of Fatima is? Fatima bad'atun minni. Fatima, she's a part of me. She's a parcel of me, part and parcel of Rasulullah. Man adhaha faqad adhani. Whoever hurts Fatima hurts me. Man aghdabaha faqad aghdabani. Whoever angers Fatima has angered me. It is mentioned in those books that Fatima, she passed away while she was angry with these two. So when these two, Fatima is angry with them, Rasulullah is angry with them. When Rasulullah is angry with someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with them. And then we come and then you say that no, they are fine and everything is rosy and everything's good. Fatima's anger is incurring the anger of Allah upon these two people. Allahu Akbar. Ya Rasulullah. Ya Ali. Ya Ali. So now a question might come to mind that Lady Fatima, you hear some people, they sugarcoat it as if they're trying to defend Lady Fatima. Lady Fatima, such a pious lady, such a God-fearing lady, she had nothing to do with this world and she's going to fight for a piece of land. She's going to fight for Fadak. Is this worthy of her status? Is this where you bring Fatima? Is this how you lower Fatima? Wal'iyadhu billah. Well, Fadak, it was not only an estate. Fadak was just a tool. Fadak represented something much bigger. Fatima Zahra, she did not want the land. Even when the land was in her control, not one dirham of the 24,000 golden coins was in the house of Fatima. It was all given for the sake of Allah. Fatima, her charity, do you know anything about her charity? Fatima is the one who feeds the angels of Allah bread. 3 days, miskin and wa yatim and wa asira, they come to her house, they take bread. So Fatima, she did not need this. She did not need this land of Fadak. So why did she rise? Fadak was just a symbol. Fadak represented the greater imamah. Fadak represented the bigger right of Ali ibn Abi Talib that was usurped. The right to rule the people, the right to have authority over the people after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. This was the right of Ali ibn Abi Talib that was usurped. So Lady Fatima, she stood up for Fadak, and through her stance for Fadak, she protested against this whole new government. That this government, it usurped one small land that I had, And you think it's not going to usurp the authority of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen himself says, كانت في أيدينا فدك فشحت عليها نفوس قوم. That all we had was fadak, and then some people, their eyes and their desires just clung onto fadak, and it was taken away from us. Fadak was a symbol of the wilayah, of the imamah, of the right to rule that was taken away from Amir al-Mu'mineen, that was taken away from Ahlul Bayt. And through this stance, Lady Fatima protested against this injustice, to the extent that Ibn Abi al-Hadid al-Mu'tazili, one of the famous commentators of Nahjul Balagha, he writes in his book that one day I went to my teacher and I asked him, was Fatima right in her claim for fadak? He said yes, Fatima was right. Then I asked him, then why didn't that man give fadak to her? It was only a land, and she was right. He should have given it away. Then that person, that teacher, he stood silent for a while. And then he smiled. And then he said, if today fadak would have been given to Fatima, tomorrow she would have come and asked for something bigger. Today they gave her fadak, tomorrow they're going to have to give her the khilafah. Tomorrow, she's going to come and she's going to say that, you think I am true in what I say? You believe me? I told you fadak was mine, you accepted. I'm telling you that the khilafah belongs to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Rasulullah said in the field of Ghadir, he says, Man kuntu mawlah fa Aliyun mawlah, give Ali his khilafah. If they had accepted fadak, this is what would have happened, which is why they didn't accept. And one more riwayah and then we'll end. Fadak, as we said, it demonstrates, it represents the bigger authority that the Ahlul Bayt have, the divine authority from Allah which the Ahlul Bayt have to govern over people. Harun al-Abbasi, la'anahullah, he used to say to Imam al-Kadhim, alayhi salam, he used, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He used to say to Imam al-Kadhim, Hudd li fadak, that tell me the limits of fadak. Tell me the boundaries of fadak, I'll give it back to you. Fadak is yours, I'll give it back to you. Just give me those boundaries. Where is fadak? The Imam, he used to refuse. He says, Harun, you can't do it. You're incapable. It's not for you. It is impossible for you to do so. He used to persist and persist and persist until one day he says, give me, where are the boundaries? Tell me. Imam al-Kadhim, he says, if I tell you the boundaries, are you going to actually give it back to me? He says, I swear upon your grandfather Rasulullah, I'll give you fadak. Just tell me those boundaries. Imam, he said, listen, you want to know the boundaries of fadak? The first boundary of fadak is in Yemen. The first boundary of fadak is all the way in Yemen. The second boundary of fadak is in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. The third boundary of fadak, first Yemen, second Samarkand. Number 3, where's the third boundary? All the way in Africa. That is the third boundary of fadak. What is the fourth boundary of fadak? It is in Armenia. These 4 boundaries, from Yemen to Samarkand, from Armenia all the way to Africa, this is the land of fadak. Harun, give it to us. Harun, as the Imam was saying this, his face was turning colors from whatever his color was, to black, to red, to green. His face was changing colors. And then he said, you want me to give you fadak? You asked for my whole kingdom. I told you give me fadak and you asked me for my whole kingdom. Of course I'm not going to give it to you. So this means that fadak, it was not only just an estate. Fadak was the divine authority of the Ahlul Bayt to rule over people. And through the process that Lady Fatima stands, through her stance which she stood for, she protested against this usurpation of the right of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the very first martyr for the sake of wilayah, for the sake of this authority, divine authority, is Lady Fatima Zahra. And how will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pay her back? We have in the riwayat that on the day of judgment, everyone will be there. Anbiya, Mursaleen, Shuhada, Siddiqeen. The stage will be set And then a crier will call, غُضُّوا أَبْصَارَكُمْ. Everyone in the Day of Judgment, lower your eyes. Cover your eyes. Lower down your heads. Why? كَيْ تَمُرَّ فَاطِمَةٌ بِنْتُ مُحَمَّدٍ. Now, this lady, she wants to come, the lady of light, Fatima bint Muhammad. All of you Anbiya, all of you Mursaleen, all of you Shuhada, all of you Siddiqeen, lower your eyes so Fatima can pass. No one can have the audacity to look into the face of Fatima. Nuh, why aren't you looking? Ibrahim, why aren't you looking? Musa, Isa, why aren't you looking? They're going to say Fatima is passing. Who am I to look at Fatima? Now I ask you, this lady, whom the Anbiya, whom the Awsiya, they cannot look at her out of her greatness. This lady, a bunch of hooligans come to her door. A bunch of hooligans come with fire. They come with wood. They set fire to the door of Fatima, the door upon which Rasulullah used to come and says, Assalamu alaikum ya ahl bayt al-nubuwah. This lady whom the Anbiya cannot face, the door is pushed upon her. She is crushed between the walls and the door. This is the oppression of Lady Fatima. And according to another narration, when Lady Fatima, she's going to come, she will not come empty-handed. She will have clothes which have blood stains on them. With these blood-stained clothes, she's going to come into the Day of Judgment. She's going to hold onto the pillar of the Arsh. She's going to say, Oh Allah, I want justice. I want justice. Oh Fatima, what do you want justice for? Do you want justice for your... Do you want justice for your limbs? Do you want justice for your burning door? Do you want justice for your child Muhsin who was killed in your stomach? She's going to say, no. Oh Allah, this is the cloth of my Hussein. This is the cloth of the Hussein who I raised with my own hands. Oh Allah, give me revenge from the killers of Hussein. A mother, she will forget all of her pain only for the pain of her children. This is Fatima al-Zahra. And the relationship between Imam al-Hussein and Lady Fatima al-Zahra is so great. To the extent that Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, when he has given Lady Fatima her ghusl, when he has given Lady Fatima to Zahra her kafan, when it's time to bid farewell, he calls on to everyone, Ya Zainab, Ya Kulthum, Ya Hassan, Ya Hussain, halummu wa tazawwadu min ummikum Fatima. Come, O Zainab, O Kulthum, O children, come, bid farewell to your mother. Zainab comes, Kulthum comes. When it's time for these two boys of Fatima, they come, they stand at her feet, they say, Ya al-Hasan, Ya al-Hussein, oh mother, you're going to meet our grandfather Rasulullah. Tell him that we said our salams to him, and tell him that, oh Rasulullah, since you have left us, Hassan and Hussein have become orphans. There is no one to care for us. There is no one to look after us. This was such a heart-wrenching scene. Amirul Mu'mineen, he says, Ushhidullah, I swear by Allah, annaha hannat wa annat wa maddat yadaha, that I swear by Allah, Fatima let out a shriek, Fatima let out a sigh, and she stretched her arms from their kafan, and those two children, they came and they hugged their mother. I don't know what they said. I don't know what she said. All I know is that a cry from the heavens came and said to them, Irfa'huma an sadriha, Ya Abul Hasan, lift these two children from the chest of Fatima. Why can't these children say goodbye? فَقَدْ أبكيا والله ملائكة السماء, looking at the tears of Hassan, looking at the tears of Hussein. The angels of the heavens are crying. There is tantrum in the angels of the Arsh. Amirul Mu'mineen, he separates them. He takes Lady Fatima to be buried. He stands at the grave of Rasulullah and he says, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Peace be upon you, O Rasulullah. Anni, from me. Wa an ibnatika an-nazilati fi jiwarik. And from that child of yours who is coming to you right now. As-sari'atil lihaqi bik. The one who came too quickly to you, only 75 or 95 days later, Fatima is coming to join you, O Rasulullah. Now he wants to put her into the grave, but how does he do so? The children are small, the rest are na mahram, they cannot touch Fatima. Amirul Mu'mineen, he saw that two hands came from the grave of Rasulullah. Two hands. that resembled the hands of Rasulullah. They said, "Oh Ali, give me my Fatima, give me my child, I'll take her." I'm ending the majlis. I'll say to you, "Oh Bibi Fatima, oh lady, forgive us. You are extremely oppressed, but at least at your end, at your last time, you got a ghusl. You were washed. You got the ghusl. But our lives be sacrificed for Hussein, the one who got the ghusl." Imam Zaman, he says, "Assalamu ala al-mughassali bidam al-jirah." It's not that Hussein did not get a ghusl. Hussein got that ghusl, but he didn't get the ghusl with water. Assalamu ala al-mughassal bidam al-jirah. Hussein got the ghusl. Hussein washed through the blood of his wounds. Lady Fatima, on the last moments, you came back for your children. You came back to life. You hugged your children. You bid farewell to your children. This is in 11th Hijri of Medina. 50 years later in Ashura, Hussein is dying, but we don't see anyone there to hug him. We don't see anyone there to kiss him. We all see Shimr coming with the blunt knife. We see Shimr's najis foot on the chest of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. We see Shimr's najis hand on the neck, on the hair of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, and then the knife is used, and then we hear from the heavens, "Ala qutil al-Hussein bi Karbala, ala dhubih al-Hussein bi Karbala." Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Mata min Hussein.
Hussain, ya Hussain, ya Hussain, ya Hussain. 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 Zahra ka laadla बेजुर्म बेखता है मारा गया, है मारा गया। गुर्बत की ये शब है बेपर्दा ज़ैनब है, करती है रो रो के ज़ैनब यही पुकार। हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन। 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 वो जो लहू लहू है खालिक की आबरू है, ऐ शाह करबला महशर तलक खुदा ममनून है तेरा, ममनून है तेरा। तू हक का रहबर है, नबियों से बरतर है, तेरे ही सदके में बाकी है ये जहां। हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन। 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 ज़ैनब को बस ये गम है, इस बात का आलम है, सर खाके नैनवा ज़हरा के लाल का लाशा पढ़ा रहा, लाशा तमाशा पढ़ा रहा, ज़ैनब को याद आई भाई